Hey everybody. So yesterday we finally got some visibility into our logs that are we're getting whenever we do a voice event. So if I type in there and I go, "Yes, sir." Oh, wrong one. "Yes, sir." All right, what are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, okay. We got our "yes, sir." Apparently I had six. Oh, nine. I wonder what it says now. Oh, okay. So it still says "yes, sir." Um, but we have a bunch of blogs. They're pretty useless. Um, it is pretty cool, yeah, and we would probably be able to. It would be fairly easy, and the next natural step would be to actually have the value. So we have the key, and we could put the value next to it. But probably that would probably be a waste of time at the moment because this is fairly, while it's pretty cool and way better than what we had, it's fairly useless because like where does one start? Where does one end? I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot to figure out. Okay, here we could change the colors and all that, but really what we need to do is sort of have like a title, and then like the value, and the title should probably be like the key, and not actual title, but like some sort of indicator of where you know where things start and what they're associated with. And this is kind of like I can't even begin to tell you how many hours and hours and hours I've spent trying to do this because what we want is a two rows per item. And tables, it's just so elegant, right? The way this locks down. A row is tied to an index and then all that. And so I can remember in Angular 10, like just come with all kinds of crazy schemes where you end up with tables, but the problem is that you end up like maybe you make a separate table for each row, but then keeping the columns consistently with, I mean, just have all kinds of problems. So that but they solved the issue, and they have, I think Angular came up with sort of two ways to solve the issue, and I don't know if they came out with the two ways at the same time, so those two ways are sort of muddled up in my head, or if I discovered those two ways at the time and all that. But they tend to, the two solutions either fall into using the ng template, where you kind of create a template that has two rows in it, and then you render the template over and over again. I find that one to be a little bit more difficult to sort of abstractly deal with because like what the variable that the template is rendering is to me not obvious usually. Um, and then the other one is this concept called ng content, where you tell it to go over but don't create any markup. So do this iteration over a bunch of data, but don't create any markup as part of the iteration. Create the markup underneath, and then you can have your two rows inside of there. And I think that is a little bit more um, easier to deal with. Now, I think there's two other very, very abstract concepts that come along with that. And one of them is content projection. So then, like when you start going down ng content, you end up going down sort of this rabbit hole called content projection, which is a very, very weird abstract thing, which I've dug into a bunch of times. And I think it basically means to like throw content into a region. And in my last video for 3JS, I briefly mentioned that, and I guess it's something that's sort of inherited from Angular Web Components, which is a W3C browser, um, um, a specification that describes how a browser should handle things, and they have. And then the other thing, and I believe that maybe these are directly or somehow linked with each other, is this concept called slots, which I don't really understand it. And actually, in my last video, I actually did a lot of interacting with ChatGPT to try to get a better understanding of slots. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I understand slots at a 3. Um, and a 3 would normally mean that like I could get it done and sort of talk to a complete novice and make some stuff up, and maybe convince them that I know what I'm talking about. Got a 50-50 chance, but I definitely don't understand it. So I am going to go with the ng content, and I cannot remember how to do ng content, but in my conversation with ChatGPT, they actually gave consent. So yeah, okay. So what I believe what I want to do is do this. ng dash content. And then I want to do this for loop in my content. And I think I need a space there. And then what I can do is I can just say hello. And there'll be a bizarre hello in the middle of the table. I don't even know how. Hello. Yeah, so it created all the hellos. Like if we were to look at the inspect the source, see we have these ng content. It's like I don't know. I don't know what you want. So it did that, but all it did was put what was in there. So I think now at this point I can do 2. So I think what I don't want is this. I don't. So now I don't need this anymore, right? Oh, the word this. The word this. And then I think I can move this section of code. I hate using the word this because it has such a meaning in JavaScript. So basically now I'm no longer, TR is no longer bound to the, it's not directly tied to the for loop. And I believe we'll be back to where we were. Baby, come back. Good job. I don't know why. That's really cool to me. You know, I mean, it's kind of, I think the coolest things are also the scariest things. So, you know, obviously the browser can listen to what I say and convert it into these sounds waves into text and then print it back to me, which also means like it could send it to whoever wants, you know. So anyways, it's good to know ignorance is usually not actually your friend. So now we can have another TR. And we can have basically 2 rows for every item. 2 rows for every item. That's pretty impressive. Right, so we got 0 and then we got 0 again. So now what we can do is let's just go ahead and get rid of our T head here. And let's just make this only the index and then this only the value. I mean, I just can't even begin to tell you how hard what we just did used to be back in the day. So now we got that, which is pretty cool. It's very obvious where the break is now, and we can easily just say like title, and then we can go into our CSS and we can say dot title, and I think we can just set the background color. Background color is equal to gray. We'll just go with CC. And then background. So now we have that. I think we can just say like table width is equal to 100%. Hundred. There we go. I wonder what happens if I do hundred, like 300. 100. That is crazy. Isn't that crazy? So it caught it, but it didn't see it. It saw it as text. When I say hundred, it's like text. Uh, 50. Let's try that. 50. Same thing. But anyways, so we have our logs and we know which one is which I think is a huge improvement. Let's go ahead and put a border around our table. Border 1px solid black. Border. Let's see. I think that looks a lot better. Um, yeah. I mean, we could do a lot more, but I think this is pretty good. So I think the next step is going to be to put the type over there and then maybe the result, like in parentheses. I think one of these is the result, but I don't know. Um, let's see, current target, compose, return, probably in here. And I think if I remember correctly, return value is a little bit more complicated than just the actual value. But anyway, so we could start creating useful logs um, and be able to kind of see what we're getting back and all that. Um, but I will say, I just, it's like easy to gloss over it because the Angular folks just did such a great job on this ng content, and it's so incredibly useful. And it totally makes sense. I think ng template is pretty darn useful too. Believe the basic concept of ng template would be that I would create like a template that had these two rows in it. And let's see. This is another good learning opportunity. Um, how do you use ng template? And yeah, so you set that up. So I think I would be setting up everything that's inside this content would go inside of template. And so, but see, I would do it below, but they did it above. I actually see a lot of people do it above. Ng template, and then they say, oh, then you use ng container, which, okay. See, I think ng container is the thing that gets kind of mixed up in my head with ng content. So then you use ng container, and then you can for loop and show the templates. I think. Let's see. How do you use it? Use ng template in a for loop? Question mark. So at this point, I've gotten to the point where my head is in a certain space, and then it'd be super easy for me to understand this stuff. And if I don't go and look at it right now, that stuff won't necessarily get planted. And the way you sort of manicure the information in your brain is so important because there's just so much information, and it's very easy to sort of have all these concepts just sort of overlap and become a big jumble in your head. You have to actively, I don't know why this isn't commonly known, and why, like, I was literally in my 50s before I was aware of this, and I became completely aware of this from reading the book Sherlock Holmes. But it is so insanely important that you control the way information gets ordered in your brain, or it's just going to become mush, and you will likely go insane. Seriously, you will likely go insane if you don't control the way information is categorized inside of your head. But for me, I had kind of a mush of ng container and ng content. Those two had been mushed up in my head, and now they've been isolated, which is going to make reading code and all that in the future way less panicking. So, it's super important that you, as you absorb information, that you categorize it in your head. And I don't know how else to say that, but so yeah, you for loop over a div, which I guess you could for loop over it. So the problem with this is you're going to create a whole bunch of divs, and maybe all you wanted were the paragraphs. Um, so um, you could also, if you didn't want those divs, that you could use ng content in here, and then you would have this ng container, and then you'd have ng template. And if you hadn't really, like, if you don't have these three things properly categorized in your head, where you understand these three concepts, this code is going to be extraordinarily um, crazy. And then I don't really understand this ng template outlet. See, do they explain that? ng4 product and name description. ng renders the template for each product by passing the product and ID as the item context. Okay, so this, I think, is how you make the word item mean something inside of here. And I bet you if you don't do that, it creates its own default. Oh, okay, so you need this too. See, I find this let item to be very, very confusing. And then item, okay, so okay, so let's just start from the top. ng template is how you describe a template. Then this is how you give it an identity, an ID. And so that is tied to this. And then let item is tied to this, which is part of this context tag. And so I don't know if you know what context is, but context is the whatever the this is for something. So it's whatever the context is. So like if you, to kind of bring it into your world or to human world, you may have the word brother. The brother for you means something different than for your next door neighbor. Like assuming that you don't have a relative. Like let's assume you don't have a relative. Like there's you, your family, and then there's another family. And let's say this person has a boy and a girl that's Sally and John, and then they have a boy and a girl that's Joe and Jolene. And then the word brother over here means something different than the word brother over here. It's the current context. So this is how you define what item is for this template. So item is based on this. So let's just say that this is super powerful, way, way more powerful, but so much more complex than doing ng content over here. ng content, we do that. The context is item. There's no extra code to do that context and all that. So, if you can get away with just, excuse me, sorry, if you can get away with just having a for loop with some markup in there, this, you will, man, why did they have to take the word this? If you can get away with doing it this way, then you are making the life of your other developers make a lot more sense. Because the reality is many, many, many times, gosh, sorry, pardon me. Many, many, many times, these two things aren't even in the same file. And many, many times, what the template isn't in the same file and is dynamic. So things can just get out of control and very, very difficult to make things understand. But anyway, so yeah, it's not lost on me that we didn't really learn anything more about the voice API today, that all we're doing is making the layout and the look a little better so that we can get a better understanding. Hopefully in next week's video, I can have the word, whatever the event is, so whatever this event type is, and in parentheses, the result border, the word border, so, and centered here, and then maybe if we're really lucky, show what is trusted is, what type is, what target is, and all that, and then we'll catch that, and that will be in a video. And then like 5 years from now, if I've built out an application that makes use of this technology, and it suddenly breaks after a new browser upgrade, a new Chrome comes out, I can go back and look at this video and say, oh, now whatever is changed. There's a new set of whatever. They don't have at target anymore. They have that target. They've changed. Some return value is now return val or values, and instead of whatever it was, now it's an array of whatever it was. Like it'll be easier to kind of go back and figure out what changed. And once, if you can easily figure out what changed, it's usually a lot easier to fix whatever the problem is. Anyways, happy coding, everybody. Bye.